Good morning. Welcome to Expat Insights. I'm your host, Raju Mandhyan. Here at Expat Insights, we take external views of internal successes by foreigners, expats, and immigrants who have made Philippines their home. This morning on Friday, we have two guests, and we are going to talk about the transformative power of art and technology. The first professor, who is an artist, a book writer, and a professor, of course, from Hawaii. He's here. How to paint, and he's going to share with us how one goes about not paint but draw and do portraits and the value behind it. Professor Van James, welcome to Expat Insights and welcome to Philippines. Mabuhay.
Thank you. Mabuhay and aloha.
Aloha, right. So Professor Van James, welcome to the Philippines one more time, and tell us a bit about the work you do, the things you study and the things you teach.
Well, my background in the visual arts is such that I'm very interested in seeing how the arts can transform our life. You know, we're virtually artists. Our greatest work of art is ourselves. And by using the arts, painting, drawing, music, technology even, we transform ourselves and we transform the world around us. So in very simple ways, I like to work with people to show them that they are artists, visual artists as well, because many people think that they can't draw.
Yeah, I'm one of them.
I noticed you were one of them.
Yeah.
But you can draw, and you proved that as well. So I like to do workshops where one can begin to see, oh, I can actually do something with drawing. I can actually do something with painting.
So what goes on in the head or the mind of a person as and when he draws or paints or sings? How does it make him a better human being or a better performer or a better value-adding human being to society when somebody does what you do? What happens inside the mind?
Well, I think today that what goes on inside the mind, neurologists could tell us and are telling us that we have multi-intelligences. And one of these intelligences is our visual pictorial intelligence. And we actually understand the world much more through the images that we see, the colors and sense impressions that we see, than we do through words, through talking, or through numbers. And yet our education is focused on words and numbers, learning those, memorizing those, and taking tests on those. It transforms me through showing me potentials I didn't know that I had, through coming, as I just experienced in your question, coming to the edge of my envelope and realizing, well, there's a vast expanse out there. I can go beyond my limitations. And I can do that in the visual arts. I can do that in any subject. You know, today we limit ourselves to either thinking we're robotic or animalistic as human beings. But the human being has unlimited potential, and our education system doesn't really support that so much. That's why I was very attracted to the Waldorf approach, because there really is this view of the human being as being full of tremendous potential, physically and spiritually.
When you started off in this profession years ago, no? And I don't know how young you were at that time, but when was the time of realization into the value behind this profession? When did you say, I like this and I want to stay here? What brought you into it?
Well, I have to say it's been gradual all along. First of all, in high school and art school, it was pretty clear to me I wasn't a good public speaker. I wasn't a good reader, but I could do art. And it was through doing artistic work myself that I could see it leads into all other fields. It's every every little perspective we start at can take us into any other perspective.
Now, you also teach this. You're here in the Philippines to teach this, but you also, I know that you teach this in New Zealand, in Hawaii, and Australia. How do you go about putting this discipline across to other people, students of yours? How do you get them started, involved, and engaged in this?
Well, it can start by just drawing a line or
Right.
asking people. For instance, this workshop here in Makati in Manila that I'll be doing is discovering something about ourselves through drawing a portrait. And it's one of the most immediate things that we have contact with is a person's face. And what about our own face? Can we learn something from drawing? You know, even in the Bible, God made man in His own image. The Great Spirit made the human being in His own image. What is our image? So, you know, we could actually draw that, as I was doing with you just before the show.
All right. So you want to show me what you're telling me? Okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah.
Shall
sure.
I?
Yeah. Please. Yeah.
Well, one can just start with
Yes, sir.
one of the wonderful shapes.
Yeah. Okay.
Comes from expanding a circle, a mandala. You expand it into the oval. Our face has this relationship to the heavens above, to the earth below. And then if we divide that in half, and then divide it in half again, and in half again up there, and half again here, just doing simple proportions. This is something that I teach to teachers to work with children. In 4th grade, when most adults that I work with, they will say around 4th grade, 5th grade, I stopped drawing.
You said something, mandala, like oval like the mandala. What is that?
Well, mandala is Sanskrit for circle.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah?
Right, like a dial. Like
yeah.
a dial, yeah, like a dais. No, dais is a stage, but dial, round.
Round.
Okay.
Circular. It's the circle has been, from the beginnings of time, this form has been the symbol for completeness, for God or goddess, or wholeness, the universe. And in Sanskrit, it means essence container. So every time we say the word circle, it means an essence container. Draw an essence container. There's something of essence that's contained within this form. So if we just expand it a little, have a kind of truncated mandala, an essence container, and some image is going to appear in this. Yeah?
So it
I have
contains...
to say, I've never done this before.
That's
Quite
okay,
this
that's
way.
okay. So you can take your time, that's fine. So you're saying that when I draw the circle that represents my face, it will contain who I am? Is that
something of an essence of who
the
you
essence
are.
of who I am?
Yeah.
So the lines will show something, reflect a bit of me.
Yeah.
When I draw, okay.
Filippo Brunelleschi, who constructed the dome of Santa Maria del Fiore in Florence, said the lines and forms are visible signs of divine gestures. Learn to understand them, and you will comprehend how God created the world.
Oh, that was kind of heavy. No?
Yeah.
So you might want to speak to me in my
lines,
language.
Straight lines, curved lines, circular lines are a signature of the greatness of the cosmos.
The
How
creation.
Can we, and as they're a script that we can unlock the meaning of the world from. Yeah, straight line and a curve. You'll be talking about texture. Straight lines and curves, circles, binary
0, 1,
system.
0, 1.
Yeah, straight lines and curves. All our technology comes out of engineers and mathematicians call those ones and zeros, but artists call them straight lines.
Oh my!
And
oh
all
my.
the essence of the world are contained in those forms.
And you know this secret, and you've been keeping it to yourself.
I'm keeping it to myself for a while.
So, as a man walking the streets of Metro Manila, which you're visiting, What do I do with this knowledge, Professor? How do I make good use of it in living and leading a successful or a fruitful life? What do I do with this kind of knowledge?
Good. I think
Yeah,
share
thank
it.
God, yeah.
Share it with others.
And do I do something, do I construct, build something with it? Can I use it knowing that this is all related? The lines of the one in Delphi, did you mention? The circle, the mandala, how do I relate it? How do I make practical use of it in day-to-day life?
Well,
Oh, what do you do with it? Yeah.
Well, I try to share it.
Mm-hmm.
I try to work through it to find more meaning.
Yeah.
To recreate myself and the relationships I have with others.
And how has it helped you? What have you gained out of it today in the work you do, in the life you live?
I think it's made my life richer.
Mm-hmm.
I have such a wonderful life. You know, I get invited on TV shows. I get to travel to other countries. I live in Hawaii. It makes my life richer to share what little I know of this.
And the others adopted this habit from you, learned from you. Are there any examples of them having living a much more fruitful and fulfilling life? Have you touched somebody in such a way as an artist?
I hope so. You know, I teach half-time in a Waldorf high school in Hawaii, and I do adult teacher training work. And I have students who come back and say, oh, you know, I was inspired by something that was said here. And for me, that you don't know it at the time, and you never would have thought that was important. But different people can pick up little riches, tools from anyone. In fact, they're being sprinkled around us all the time.
Wow. So, and you're here today, besides having written these 3 books, you're here to help a bunch of Filipinos do this starting tomorrow.
Yes.
So,
There'll be artists, art therapists, teachers, performing artists, various people who do it for transforming themselves, finding what more they have as their own gifts. So it's waking up to what we all have and opening that up further, discovering our own riches.
And how long will this course be?
Well, there's a workshop here in Makati, which is a one-day workshop, but then there's a 5-day workshop up north, which is full-time, sessions throughout the day and the evening. Can get a bit intense.
Okay,
Very
so
transformative.
Okay. So tell us these about your books now. You have 3 books on some of the ancient sites of Hawaii. Share that with us a bit.
Well, this is I got into through. This is really my first book, The
Yeah.
Spirit, and it's a history of art, looking at how spirit has always been behind our art forms. You know, the history of art is our family. All the sculpture, all the painting, all the architecture, this is a family photo album.
Humanity.
Of humanity, yeah. And when I moved to Hawaii 30 years ago, I noticed that on hikes out the outback, there were petroglyphs, there were sacred stones, there were the foundations of old temples, and I became very interested in that. So I started researching it. There were no books written about it. I began making contacts and friends with archaeologists, with native Hawaiian kahunas and kapunas, priests and elders, and finding out more and more information on this wonderful culture in Hawaii. And every place in the world has their indigenous culture where you can see the Philippines has this beautifully in the artwork that has sprung out of the land.
How old is Hawaiian culture, or the one that you have So how many thousands of years does it go back?
It's not that old. Actually, archaeologists tell us 300 A.D., less than 2,000 years old.
And Philippines, and any research in the Philippines, what do you experience? How old?
Well, older cultures
Mhm.
because of the influences from Asia.
So art form and discipline of art over the years, over these centuries, how has it changed and what is happening to it today? How is modern day art from what it was 2,000 or 1,700 years ago?
Well, I think it's different in the way that we look at it as different. Now it's a commodity. In ancient times, in primeval times, it was part of the technology. It was part of the ritual practices. And now art, we've sort of lost an understanding for its meaning, for its healing possibilities, for its spiritual aspects.
Mm-hmm.
And we see it more and more as decoration,
Mm-hmm.
and as something you buy and sell.
But yet there are people in Egypt and in the Waldorf school who are kind of pushing to bring it back to the fore. Is that right?
Yes, it's through workshops like this that we're trying to explore
Mhm.
what are the potentials of art in our time. Now, how can we have a decor that will uplift our soul and spirit, to shocking it, or seducing, or
Yeah.
working in negative.
Is-
If you look at advertising, and then
Mhm.
I go into that in this other secret language of form.
Yep.
Advertising, know how forms can affect us. It's a visual language below the level of our consciousness oftentimes, and it can influence our buying habits and the way we live.
Any recent form of media, advertising, or art you think that has influenced society that you want to share? Anything that you might have experienced recently? Music, yeah?
Well,
Movies, books? Yeah, go ahead.
Well, all of it influences. But having talked about
Something
the
that
mandala,
stands out, yeah?
having talked about the mandala,
Mhm.
researchers know that people, when they go into a grocery store, will buy a box, will buy a package with a circle on it 40% more often than with any other form. So if you look at the logos of Starbucks, of Mercedes,
Yeah.
of Tide detergent,
Right.
things like that, the circle is there
Rampant.
to draw one into it, attract one.
I didn't know that. I had no idea. So the advertisers, you're saying, know this? People in the art form know this?
Yeah, at certain levels. Yeah.
Mhm. All right. Thank you very much, Professor Van James, for being on this show. Thank you for sharing your insights on the transformative power of art. Is there something you still want to share that I haven't properly asked you, you think?
Do art whenever you can.
That's your
Keep drawing.
That's your message to me. How about to the Filipinos out here who you're going to meet starting tomorrow?
Well, I would just say that we are all creative artists, and to make our daily life an artistic experience.
Prof. Van James, thank you very much for Expert Insights. Good luck with your workshop, and may you influence a lot more people in this country and the rest of the world.
Thank you, Raju.
Professor Van James, artist and professor of art. And after the break, we'll come back and talk to Professor Arup Maiti about the transformative power of technology. Stay watching.